ask me any questions. We can drill down. We can even, since it's just us on the phone, we can even drill down into LinkedIn directly if you want to see some stuff. So whatever, this is for you guys. So whatever works for you will be how we do it, right? So we usually go through this, what we know and what we don't know. But really, here's the objectives of this presentation. I'll try to stay close to them so that I can use this recording for other sessions as well. So we'll talk about the benefits of social selling, identify at least 3 practices that you can kind of enhance your own productivity, and then suggestions on how you can kind of elevate and it says evaluate, but it should really be elevate and develop your own online presence. So that's really kind of the goal. So one of the things, I used to have this little witty thing about social media, but one of the first things I always tell everybody, and just real quickly, I know it's kind of tough because everybody's on the phone, just everybody can chime in real quick. I mean, everybody's on LinkedIn, I'm sure. Everybody's on Facebook. Is anybody using Twitter or anything like that, or Tumblr or any other tools out there? Just come off of mute real quick and just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
no,
really,
I just use LinkedIn myself.
Okay, no problem. That's cool. So what I really wanted to show is, what is social media? I mean, social media is just really an extension and just a different way of doing all the things that you've done today, whether it's Instagram or WordPress or Twitter or Tumblr, Skype, LinkedIn. All of these tools just really allow you to do the same functions that we've always done, but now do them in an online format, in an online channel. And, we're already all starting to see things change for customer service and customer experience. What social selling allows us to really kind of utilize these tools and these channels for selling and demand creation and business development and business intelligence, sales intelligence, and all of those tools. And we'll go through all of that stuff. So real quickly, there was a term, actually it was about 3 years ago, it was Customer 2.0. There was a lot of stuff, you may or may not have seen it, Customer 2.0. It is the customer who has unlimited information. There was also studies on, where we were being brought into the sales process. And now this may be different for, for the Decisions product and some of the other stuff that you have backgrounds on, but if you've seen it over time, I mean, I've been selling for a long time, like a lot of people on the phone, I'm sure. You probably remember the day where you'd get involved in the process much earlier. You spent a lot of time educating them, which we do now. However, the customers weren't as further educated on the platform. So there's a lot more customer conversations going out there. Prospects are much more educated in not only the strengths but also the weaknesses of the platform. And really, most of all, because of social media and because of the internet, people want information very quickly. They want it relevant, and it needs to be meaningful, right? So the traditional marketing stuff just doesn't fly anymore. They want value-add content. They want what they want when they want it. So social selling is really it's people like us, using the tools to, interact, collaborate, and share information proactively, and not just reactively like we always do, but also proactively with customers and prospects. And I'll even add another layer in there, like subject matter experts, industry analysts, and even media organizations that are out there. And we'll kind of talk about all those things. And the reality is what we can do on social media is so much faster. And when I say this, I don't suggest anyone ever stop what they're doing with traditional cold calling and pressing the flesh. This becomes just kind of a complement to what you're doing today, and it basically allows you to take all the strategies that you do today offline, put them online, and then when the time is right, move them to an offline relationship. So real quickly, I just want to bring your attention to the graphic, and if you're not using a tool today called Inside View, I'm going to tell you why Inside View is really a great tool. So back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, even before that, when I wanted information, I had to use 7 different tools to get information. So Hoover's, LinkedIn, Jigsaw, Hart Hanks, Google Alerts, Facebook, and also Twitter. Now I can use Inside View to get all of those different components. So if you're not using Inside View, just to give you kind of an idea of what Inside View can do, it is a complete sales intelligence portal that basically takes the functionality of all those different components that you have out there today that you see here, Hoover's, LinkedIn, it connects to your LinkedIn, Jigsaw, which is now data.com, Google Alerts, Facebook, and Twitter, and pulls it all together into one platform. So if you're not using Inside View, I highly suggest you use it. We have an enterprise license for it, and it's a very, very powerful tool. So with that, any questions? I'll just stop right there and see if anybody has any questions or anything like that. And certainly you can throw some questions up in the chat window also if you want, and I'll address them when we get to those points as well. Any questions on any of this stuff?
To get access to Inside View, who do we need to contact, or will that be you later or someone else?
No, so the good thing is if you have Salesforce, right? So the first thing is when you go into sales, I'll just bring up Salesforce real quick if my computer wants to cooperate. You have access to our Salesforce, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Today? Right.
Yes.
So when you're going into your account, so when you go into your account section, I'll just open up a quick account here, M&T Bank Corporation. You've got Inside View baked into Salesforce.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
actually right. It's right. Yeah. It's right here. So whatever you want to know about the people that it has Inside View, all the different people, the Buzz, which is your Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds, Family Tree, which is all of the subsidiaries and everything like that. If you want to know who the competition is, and you can even get financials, industry profiles, and also the overview. If you've got alert set up, you can go here, and then if you want to open up, I'm not sure if you can do it here. But I always usually keep an Inside View window open here so that I can go right to the main Inside View, because this gives me a lot more abilities to create lists and territories and different watch lists and stuff like that. So there's quite a bit that you can do here. But the nice thing is it's right within Salesforce as well. Okay, so I definitely tinker around with that and play with it. It's really a great tool. Okay, and if you ever need, we do have. If you go on, if you go into the iSales chatter chatter group, you can sign up for that group, and there's a lot of stuff posted in there about it. There's a lot of videos you can use on how to do business development, how to set up territory planning, and stuff like that. And certainly, if anything I can ever do, just ping me, and we can set up some time after hours, and I can go through it with you. Okay, so. What can you do with social media? Well, it's real quick. I mean, you can connect with and network with people. And when I say people, it's everybody. It's customers. It's prospects, partners, analysts, authors, and others. And when I say others, you'll see, you're creating a business network. So you want to open that up to pretty much everybody. And really what happens when you create the network, everyone becomes a resource for everybody else. So your network becomes this kind of living and breathing entity, which is really nice. You can do competitive intelligence, and all of these things I'm going to go through and kind of drill down on. Prospect intelligence, you can identify trends and challenges in some of the groups. You can share content and ideas with your connections. So one of the things I do is, and if you guys are connected with me on LinkedIn, you'll notice I post a lot of stuff occasionally, a couple times a day. I'll throw some stuff out there. My network, I've proactively created a network that's based on, call center professionals, call center users, operations people, technical buyers, financial buyers in the New York, New Jersey marketplace. So what I'm trying to do is share content that I think will be of value to them. You can contribute to conversations and discussions and groups that are in there to kind of help build a brand for yourself. You can promote your company, your clients, your network, and your overall brand. And that's something I'll talk about a lot, when we go into LinkedIn is, it is really your brand. So, when I do the iSales training, we always talk about, well, what is your brand? Well, it's why people want to buy from you. So why do people buy from Dan, Mahon? Why do they want to buy from Aaron Stewart? Why do they keep buying from Michael Conti? That's the brand that I want to represent out there in the marketplace. And then you can, really ultimately, it's really trying to influence people long before, either while they're ready to buy or long before they're ready to buy, so you can use it to engage your existing customers, your potential buyers, your influencers. And when I say influencers, analysts, consultants, and bloggers that are out there, and I'll give you some great examples of how you can use them. What have the value that I've seen out of social media? It's real easy. Creating demand in my market, increasing my pipeline, accelerate sales cycles, increase sales productivity, and always increase revenue. And I've got some great examples here, and I probably should update it because I have even more. I'm working on an opportunity for Dow Jones right now, and essentially that opportunity came from me connecting with one of the executive directors in customer service. Next thing you know, I had an opportunity to send him some information. It turned out that we were connected to another person. He responded right away, and now I'm working on a $5 million opportunity. And continuing conversations we were out there last week. So you can use this to absolutely. One of the things that with my market out here when I took over this territory, I would just say that my competitors are fully entrenched in the New York marketplace. I mean, Cisco, Avaya, Genesis, and even Nortel before they were purchased. We had a lot of catching up to do, and I used every tool I could possibly think of to help do that. And this tool just became a very, very profitable. I've been able to show a lot of indirect revenue from it, and now I've even shown some direct revenue out of this. And we'll go through all that stuff. So let's talk about LinkedIn, right? So, let me just real quick, any questions on any of that stuff? And I would actually suggest, so, I mean, I think a lot of people are doing all these things already. What I like to share, though, is that if you spend a little bit more time and think about things maybe from a different perspective, you could see how to do these things on a much greater scale. I think there's always a lot of competitive intelligence, a lot of prospect intelligence, but I think there's other things that can be done to really enhance your overall network and enhance how you're engaging with the particular marketplace. So any questions on that before I go to the next slide? Okay. So what can I do on LinkedIn? Build your brand. Like I said before, if you were going to do research on a company, you would go to their website. So the reality is why wouldn't you utilize LinkedIn as your own personal website? That's essentially what it is anyway. Most people use it as an online resume, which is no problem. I like to think of it as my online brand. I represent what I can be to my customers, and it's pretty much a kind of a summary of the things I've done with my customers, what value I can bring to my customers, and it's set up in an environment so that if someone wants to do a little research on me, they can come back and they can take a look at whether or not they want to do business with me. So it gives them the ability to kind of do research on me, and that's really what it's about. So when I talk about building your brand, it's really important to have an idea of what that brand is and then how you can kind of sustain it. What is the Aaron Stewart? What is the Dan Mahon brand that you want to represent out there in the marketplace? Research and business planning, creating lists and queries, and I'll go through that with you from a business development perspective, identifying the right contacts, maintaining, cultivating relationships. And this is one of the things that, in the old days you'd have a Rolodex, and if you weren't doing business with someone, how hard was it to kind of stay in touch with them? You can use social media to stay in touch with these people, where you don't have to be hovering over your Rolodex. You can kind of stay in touch with these people. You can stay relevant to these people by using your status updates, by promoting different jobs, by promoting different informations out there. Communicating with executives. I mean, I found this to be really one of the few places that executives, and I'm talking about proactive business development, where executives will actually respond to their emails. Not all, but I've had much greater success with executives in responding to LinkedIn. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One reason is that most executives, if their inbox is anything like our own, is inundated with typical company nonsense and lots of unread messages. The other thing is they all have gatekeepers. So the senior people may or may not be actually looking at their own emails. With LinkedIn, they do manage their own social media presence. They manage their own inbox. The other thing is, what I always say is, when I look at the LinkedIn and I look at the territory, I want to proactively connect with, as many call center buyers, users, technical people in the marketplace as possible to be on their radar. This allows me to get on the radar well in advance, potentially, of them doing something, and then staying, somewhat creating some relevance to myself and a reason to do business with me. Certainly, there's great competitive information out there, sales intelligence, and then if you're interested, when you get this power deck, and I'll send it out to you all, you can click on some of this. There are some infographics. Oh, that one's not working, so we'll have to check on that. But a lot of this stuff has some great background, so if you want statistics on how many people are on LinkedIn, how many people are using LinkedIn, what type of industries are represented there, there's some great information out there readily available. Any questions on any of this stuff?
Yeah, Mike, this is Dan. I have one question. You mentioned I think it's a great point you made when you talk about it's easy to get a hold of executives on LinkedIn, right? Mm-hmm. Because there is no gatekeeper. I found that fascinating. I just used that the other day to get a hold of somebody that was hard to get a hold of at an organization. So that really does work. That's the most interesting part.
The other thing.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say the other thing is that there's a lot of people and I'm not going to suggest that anyone on the phone is having this aha moment. Dan, you absolutely had an aha moment, what I call that aha moment the other day in D.C., right? I mean,
yes,
would you
right.
consider that an aha
That's
moment
an aha.
for you?
That was the aha moment, you bet.
Okay. So the reality is that there are still a lot of people out there who don't understand why they're on LinkedIn, but they're on there. So honestly, this actually helps them understand this particular portal a lot better by you being proactive on it. I've had more conversations with executives just about LinkedIn and how I use LinkedIn because they're all on there going, oh, yeah, I'm on it. I never realized what I could do with it. And next thing you know, you're the guy explaining to them what they can do with this tool. Now, all of a sudden, you've really changed the whole entire paradigm of the conversation where you're in there wanting to talk about decisions or CICs, but now you're adding value. You're adding value outside of the particular reason you're in there. And in all honesty, that's what we're always. I mean, look, when I was a junior sales guy, one of the things they would say is go in there and see what's on the guy's desk. And you see a hockey stick, talk about hockey. You see the kids offer up about the kids. Which is relatively cheesy, and everybody does it. This helps break the ice in some other ways. You get to be the person who brings that aha moment to the table, which I found to be really great.
Yeah, that's cool. So the next question I have is this: I noticed that well, I guess here's my question. When you've talked with prospects or customers or even executives, have they ever checked out your profile on LinkedIn afterwards without you even mentioning about LinkedIn?
So absolutely, almost always. So part of my strategy and part of what I use lead generation for is, so they do a combination of cold calling, but they also go in if I say, hey, do me a favor, I want you to target certain companies. Like I just said the other day, I want you to target Blue Cross Blue Shield for me in New Jersey. So what they'll do is they'll proactively go into LinkedIn and find people to connect with, and they'll log in with my credentials, and they'll go in with a script that I've already given them to basically send to these people. And the scripts it's all kind of standard. So I'll share the script with you in a little bit when we get up there. But essentially, they go in and send that message to the person. And I'll give you I'll give you a summary of the email. It pretty much goes like this: Hey, I noticed I noticed your impressive profile while I was doing the search, and we're both in this group together, and that we have a common that we're both in the call center industry. I've been in the industry for 20 years. If there's anything I can do for you, please feel free to let me know. I've got a robust network of subject matter experts and resources. They're at your service, and obviously this is no strings attached. If you'd like to connect, feel free to send me an invitation. And 9 times out of 10, they come back. I see them look at my profile, and the next thing I know is I get an invitation from them. And that's kind of the process of the proactive networking. And we'll go through that in a little bit. But that's really kind of the process: is get on their radar long before they're ready to actually buy something. So I'll show you. Maybe this is the point where you did it. So here, let me just give you a quick for business planning and sales intelligence. So here, if you look at it, I've got a quick little list. So if I look at this, right, so, I'm an egomaniac like the next person out there, right? So I think if as a sales guy, everyone who's got the word call center in their profile, they should know me because I sell call centers in the New York area. right? So the first thing we do is here I've created a list and I look at, second connections in the greater New York City area, Rochester, Albany, and Buffalo. There's 8,000 people in this marketplace with the word call center or contact center in their title. Well, for me, I look at all of them as people who should know me. I should be on these people's radar. So I look at, these lists and I go, all right, so someone like Paulo Thomas, contact center manager at Cablevision, that's someone that I want to actually connect with. So now from a concept perspective, if you all know, unless you're connected with someone, you can't actually, you can't send them an invite, right? So this is one of the things we'll talk about in a second. But I just wanted to show you right here. So business planning and sales intelligence. Here I have a list of just people in the New York City area with the term call center or contact center. This is a geographical list that I'm building right here. Here I have a list based on companies. So I was creating a list based on people in utilities. So Suburban Propane, Atlas Energy, New Jersey Resources, American Water. I was proactively looking at this list for utility people in my marketplace, or actually I was targeting these companies. So now one of the things that you want to do is, if you look over here, it's very important to be in groups, because I can take this list of 4,269 people, and I could say that I can click on this list and say, all right, well, 8 of them are in this contact center group. So those are people that I would want to proactively connect with. Right, so that's why it's important to be in groups on LinkedIn. Okay, I'm going to stop right there and leave that to noodle on that for a second, see if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, Jamie,
actually,
hold on.
Go ahead.
So, ladies first.
Sorry, thank you. This is Jamie. I was just wondering if you've invested in the premium version of LinkedIn and if you think that's worthwhile.
Yeah, I do have a premium version of, let's see here. It is the premium version of LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I've heard it called a bunch of different things like Sales Navigator or Premium. What I always recommend people is you definitely having the premium version is really key because it allows you to give you. So here on this 4,000 results, if you don't have a paid-for version, there's only so far that they're going to let you see out of those 4,000. The paid-for version is going to let you see all of them. Okay. The other thing is like second and third connections and further. They may not let you see the name. So here's a way to get their name. You can get their names also in those.
Okay.
Plus, it gives you all these filtering here too. It gives you all this filtering that you wouldn't have if you don't. Okay.
Yeah, I can't see that in the standard version.
Hey, whoever's outside, could you put your phone on mute?
I'm sorry?
Whoever's outside, could they put their phone on mute? I hear wind, big time wind.
Sound like a little wind, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to show is being in a group, why it's important to be in groups, and if you're not in groups, you should definitely be in groups. So again, there's a concept of, on LinkedIn, there's a concept of sending messages to people and in-mails, right? So if you're not connected with someone, you can only send them an in-mail, right? And depending on the version that you have or that you pay for the subscription, you may or may not have a certain amount of in-mail. So I think the free version, they give you 3 in-mails, and if you pay, they give you 15 or 10 or something like that. The other important thing about being in a group with someone is once you're in the group with someone, you can send them messages all day long. Okay? So this is very important, right? So the group, and like I think I said this in DC, or I may have said this in iSales last week. I look at the group, like if you were doing a trade show, right, what would you do? You'd set up a booth, and you'd stand at the booth waiting for people to come by or show some interest, and then you'd introduce yourself to them. And you'd talk about the value that you could offer them as an organization. Well, to me, I see the groups the same way. I see the group really as a collection of people that come together for a common interest. Now, the groups on LinkedIn have never really turned out to be, I think, what LinkedIn wants them to be. But from a sales perspective, they're exactly what I want them to be, which is people kind of classifying themselves into a particular group. And, look at it like, a trade show or a fishing hole, whatever you want to look at it, that's a great way for me to kind of encapsulate. So then I can come into the group, I can go into the members, the 32,000 members, I can search on the word New York, and now I can look at the people, Director of Operations, National Call Centers. You know, Mary is someone who I want to meet. I want to be on Mary's radar. I want to be on Rob, well, maybe not AIG because I dislike AIG so much, but maybe Rob Moore. I want to be on his radar so that if he has a need and I can impress him and maybe influence him over time, I can be on his radar so that given the opportunity, he'll reach out, or at some point I'll reach back out to him if I hear there's an opportunity there. Any questions on any of that stuff so far? Okay. So who else can you connect with on LinkedIn? So I've connected with all the people at Gartner. I've connected with all the people at ICMI and all the different trade publications. I've also connected with authors. So Randy Bussey, Robert Shapiro. I've had a relationship with Randy now for about 2.5 years. She wrote a book called Turning Rants into Raves. It's all about customer experience, customer service. Richard Shapiro is an expert. He is the president for the client Center for Client Retention. So they work with a lot of pharmaceuticals and big Fortune 50 companies doing all sorts of follow-on surveys and scoring and questionnaires. What I was able to do, I started a relationship with these people on Twitter. Then it moved to LinkedIn. And on the Twitter, I was just kind of reposting their blog and retweeting their information. And then it turned into, I turned in an online relationship into an offline relationship, got together with both of them. They're both based in New York. And with Randy, Randy spoke at my event 2 years ago. She spoke at the New York, New Jersey User Summit that we did 2 years ago. Last year, and we gave her book away for free. So she had copies of her books on hand. She signed them for people, and we gave them out. She did a phenomenal presentation. It was a highlight of the actual event. And Richard and Randy both did a panel. They were at the last event that we did in November. Both of them came and they were on a panel. And what I did was whoever asked a question within the audience. And last year we had about 110 or 120 people at the New York event. Whoever asked a question, we gave a copy of both books. We had them nice tied up with ribbons. The other thing I've done with Randy, I haven't done it with Richard, was one of the concepts that. So a little bit of my background, I was a sales engineer before I was a salesperson, so I've been in sales probably for about 15 years now, but before that I was a sales engineer. And I remember going on sales calls with salespeople, and the one thing that I used to really be embarrassed for them was when the customer would say things like, oh, we only hear from Mike, or we only hear from so-and-so when he wants to sell us something. So what I've done with Randy and Richard, and I've already done it a couple times with Randy, is I've offered a lunch and learn, meet the author with Randy, where we've gone into customers' sites. They've brought all of their customer service people and their managers into a room. I've paid for lunch. Sometimes I've actually done this at a restaurant and had multiple companies come. And everybody gets to do like a meet and greet with the author. Usually it's a 2.5-hour session. Randy talks for an hour, then we eat, we have some discussion over it, then they have some more dialogue, and then everybody gets a copy of Randy's book. And typically Randy and I have a good relationship with her now, and she's actually gotten enough work outside, she's gotten enough work out of it where she gives me the books for free now, which is really great. So I encourage you to connect with these people who are in your territories and use them to your advantage, because you can offer value to your customers without having to really do anything other than just bringing the right people to the table. And these are great conversations to be around, because where else can usually I talk to either the telecom person or the call center manager. I mean, when I've done this, they bring like frontline supervisors and operations people to the table, and there's conversations that I get to be involved in that I probably wouldn't be involved in, and it helps me really position our products much more eloquently, and really helps with the value proposition. And then it also allows me to offer value outside of, hey, they only see Mike when he wants to sell them something. Because I can tell you right now, when I go back to a lot of these customers that I've done these things for, I have no issue asking them for orders, especially after I've done all this great like missionary work, I call it. Any questions on any of that stuff? And by the way, if you ever come to New York, these people are available for you as well. So
that's great.
Okay. So competitive information and sales intelligence. So if you look at this here, just jumping into some of the things, as you're doing some work after you've kind of created your list and you figured out who you want to call and who you want to talk to, it's really great to drill down on the profiles, because just by drilling down on a lot of these people profiles, you can actually see what they're using. So here for me, it's very important to understand what the technology profile, what the technology landscape is. So here I can see that this guy, they've got at Heinz, they've got Cisco Unified Contact Center, Cisco Call Manager. They're a big Cisco shop. And now it was not very successful with Heinz, but when we targeted Heinz, we actually used the CIC with the Cisco as the sales pitch, as to not tell them that they gotta throw the baby out with the bathwater. We didn't get very far, but at least we had a little bit more of a targeted approach as far as who we were trying to contact and why. The other thing is, if you're set up in your profiles properly, you'll get a lot of job descriptions. And this used to be a little bit easier to find on LinkedIn, but you can still find it. You can go in to see who's hiring, and you can see what they're looking for. So here you see, this is TIA CREF. Overall responsibilities are for Nortel IVR, NICE, Virtual Hold, Genesis Contact Center. This gives me a great idea of what my competitive landscape looks like, right? So now I can go into them with a lot more, better knowledge of what they have, better knowledge of the challenges that they have there, and really what my value proposition is, which is obviously consolidating, flattening their environment with this approach. Lastly, if you're connected with former coworkers, you'll notice that they're always connecting with other people. So it's really great to see this guy Scott, who is the call center overlay for Cisco. I can see who he's connected with. I can also see all of his connections. So I mean, not that I would ever be going in there and then calling the people after. But at least, if I wanted to, I could kind of sick, the lead generation team and say, hey, do me a favor. Why don't you start pinging people at Travelers to see if you can actually get something going over there. So again, it just gives you an idea of what's happening, who's doing what, and it's always good to know what's going on in your marketplace, and this is a great way to do it. Any questions on any of the competitive information or sales intelligence? Okay.
Not here.
So let's talk about getting on the radar. So like I said, I go into the groups and so this is kind of just some executive information here. So getting on the radar. So here, CIO of Party City, absolutely was able to have dialogue, and I continue to have dialogue with Party City. This guy wouldn't respond to any of his work emails, but he came back, and I've had a couple of different dialogues with him, very accessible on LinkedIn. Here is CFO of JP Morgan Chase. We had ongoing opportunities. She wouldn't give us the time of day. She was actually pitching one of our competitors. I think it was Live Ops at the time. I sent her some information via LinkedIn. She replied right away. She has since, or by the time I actually copied this, she actually went to Ernst & Young. But nonetheless, she responded to her, and we did very well on this particular opportunity. Memorial Sloan Kettering is a great story, because we weren't even so we had educated Memorial Sloan Kettering for about 2 years before they put the RFP out, and then it turned out that they weren't going to give us the actual RFP. They had decided for some reason that they weren't going to give it to us. She was not responding to her emails and phone calls, but as soon as I sent her a note on LinkedIn, I gave her the pitch on who we were, that we were Gartner rated, and that we should be a part of the RFP. We were given the RFP, and we won that opportunity for it was about a $2.5 million opportunity. Also, the American Red Cross. So this guy, Rob Marsigliano, struck up a relationship with him, continued to stay in touch with him on LinkedIn. When he changed jobs, he ended up going over to American Red Cross. When he had an opportunity, he pinged me right away. I turned this over to Mike Shields. Mike Shields was able to convert the American Red Cross to a $1 million+ opportunity that he's been able to continually. He's gotten some good revenue out of them over the last 4 years, 5 years. being a resource. So once you start creating an online presence, you realize that you start to become a resource for everybody out in the marketplace. Here I was just pinged by someone out in California, and I was able to just provide them some information and then turn it back on to the rep that handled her territory. Here you have another one, another being a resource. Here was a person from Kaplan Test. She reached out for some information, which lead gen. It looks like I tweeted something, and she responded. She asked me some more information on that. We provided the information, and then I turned this lead over to Gary Johnson, who is part of our team here, and he ran that sales opportunity. I don't know whatever happened with it, but it was a small opportunity. Found my coworker here on LinkedIn when they told me there was no sales engineers available in the territory. I was able to find someone who fit the bill really well. And lastly, once you start connecting with people, and the more you're out there connecting, other people will see you connect. And here, the voice engineer, lead call center engineer from Morgan Stanley, here he sent me. I must have connected with either somebody that he knew, and then he came and proactively connected with me. So again, it's not just you going out there trying to reach people. Once you start creating a presence, people see you're active out there, they'll want to connect with you as well. And I've got great examples of people pinging me that are in the industry, and then I become a resource to them. And that's really what it's about. It's getting on the radar. So let's take a look at it step by step. So here's a great example. This guy, the VP of operations at Vonage, he sent me a request. I must have pinged him in a group or something like that. I sent my traditional email message out to him, or my lead gen team sent it out to him. I said, hey, Rob, I saw your profile, would love to connect with you. He then, in turn, looks at my profile, sends me an invitation to connect. So this is now February 2012. I come back a year later, it's almost exactly a year later. I find out through my own networking that there's an opportunity at Vonage. So who do I reach out to? I reach out to the guy in my network. So I say, Rob, we connected some time ago. Always do the apology for not following up sooner. I was looking through some notes. Looks like there's a call center replacement. So this is February 2013. He comes right back within a couple of days and sends me a note back. Not only that, he'd say, that they're looking to replace the IVR, but then he goes on to tell me that they have Aspect, they have Avaya, Genesis, Merced, and NICE, Nexidia right now. This was great. I never actually spoke with him real time. I never actually talked with him offline. This relationship was just simply an online relationship. I come back. I said, great, who should I reach out to? He tells me to reach out to Phyllis Shaw. The next step of this was they were creating an RFP to go out to the marketplace. But what they wanted to do was hire a consultant first to actually build the RFP for them. I gave them 3 names of some consultants. One was Don Van Doren, another one was Diane Hollywell, and another one was Steve Layden. They ended up picking Don Van Doren. So again, what's really unique here is maybe I wasn't able to, and we're still working on this project right now. Again, just by being on their radar, I was able to get involved early in the project, find out a need, and fulfill the need with an independent resource. Just by giving them the names and number of these independent consultants, they did their homework and they ended up hiring one of them. It just so happens that all 3 of those consultants are actually pretty favorable to interactive intelligence. So no one's going to hand me the business, but at least I've got someone who's going to be fair and open about the interactive intelligence platform that I was able to place in there. And what's nice is, I was able to later to let Don Van Doren know that I helped push his name over there. So then, the consultant becomes grateful that you were able to recommend them in a place. Any kind of thoughts on that? That's really the kind of proactive business development that we do a lot of on LinkedIn. Any thoughts on that process? Or any questions?
That's actually pretty slick. I like the way you're doing that. So that's actually keeping that network available of those people. You can recommend them anywhere, or they could then turn around and recommend you. So a great technique.
That's exactly it. Think about it. It's like a live. I talk about a network when I talk about it with people when I sit around and talk. The network's a living and breathing thing, right? And all the parts need to kind of live and feed off each other. So what you get to be is kind of the farmer, right? You get to be the farmer for this beautiful beautiful, farm that you've created, or I don't know what you want to call it, but you get to be the cultivator of it, and how you cultivate it will decide how it flourishes. Does that make sense?
I'm really impressed too with the idea that people are always saying, oh, you got to use Twitter, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like, oh, nobody's using that stuff, and I do so much trying to figure things out and find people and do all kinds of research, and so when I got onto LinkedIn, I signed up with LinkedIn. Do I ever keep it up? No, I don't. I see people with all these groups, and I'm like, oh, this is a bunch of nonsense. Oh, it's just one more thing that they're playing throughout their day, right?
Right.
And I don't use any of that stuff. I mean, I really don't. And I get invitations from people. I hardly ever check it. I'll go in there and do some research on my own, but I probably am limiting myself entirely by the fact that I haven't fully participated.
So Lisa, when I saw the one, oh, I'm sorry. So Lisa, when I saw the Vonage contact pop up,
oh,
I mean, how many times have you tried to get a hold of him?
Don't even say it. Just don't even say it. I want to spit.
Hello.
Right. But I guess the point is, I like, so this is not the whole, and you guys get it, which is great. This is not the whole strategy, right? This is not this is not the only thing you do, and I have my lead gen team doing a lot of this stuff. I do a lot of it. But we also do the other stuff too, the traditional, we do our fair share of trade shows and cold calling and all that other stuff. I have changed the cold calling a little bit to, I make sure before my lead gen person or I do a cold call that we have looked at their profile. I find that the recognition to people when you tell them that you found them on LinkedIn, and either you do it here and you tell them about their impressive profile and recommendations, or you tell them over the phone, it hooks them in a little bit better by that compliment of just saying, hey, I found you on LinkedIn and your profile is really impressive. You definitely are the guy I need to be talking to at from Interactive Intelligence. You're the guy I need to be talking to from ABC Company. Usually they're hooked at that point. To me, it's like, hey, you've kind of stroked their ego a little bit. And everybody likes that, me too, so I just kind of play it to, and again, these strategies, what I'm sharing with you, this is the same stuff you do offline too, right? I mean, this is no different than what you've done offline. You meet someone at a trade show, you don't talk to them for a while,
Absolutely.
You hit them up a little bit later, you found their card on the desk, now you find out a little bit of information. Well, I think the difference here is that you can use your status updates and you can use friendly reminders and passing off some good information to really, I don't want to use the term trusted advisor, but you could come off as a very non-threatening resource. Here's the other thing. Every one of our competitors who's not doing this is doing it the old-fashioned way, which is they're getting on LinkedIn. They're sending that boilerplate, message with no other reason for why they're connecting, and they're just going to hit them up with a sales pitch as soon as they connect, right? So you get to be a little different. You get to be a little different. You get to be a little unique here, and I think uniqueness really stands out in this environment.
Well, it's funny, Mike. You sold me over within the first 5 minutes, just because of the fact that, and Dan will tell you, I've always said I'm not a salesperson. I've always considered myself more of a customer service person and a relationship builder.
Right.
But in this industry and the type of product that we have, I typically will spend 2 years nurturing a customer just to get them to talk to us, right?
Sure.
And there's only so much you can do as one single person. And it's overwhelming.
That's right.
It's absolutely overwhelming. And it was so neat to say that you do that. In fact, so much so, and I think Tommy's probably even seen that a little bit too, that I don't go after people in a way. I try and be more helpful and be a resource for them. And when I'm trying to sell my outside folks, I try and explain to them, hey, Tommy's been in the industry before. He's a great resource for you, even just to have a chat and discuss your current environment. And I always do it more from that perspective, and it's really neat to hear someone else actually do that same thing.
Yeah.
And then use the technology.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me just see if I can find my template. My templates, because I've really worked on honing these templates, and I'll share them with you. You got to promise me that you'll make them your own. Use the kind of ideas, but kind of use them on your own. LinkedIn.
Yeah, actually, I appreciate you sharing those, because that's actually what I do now when I travel, Mike. I usually go into a particular area for a week, And so I actually
Right.
go into LinkedIn, send in my people that I already have contacted that, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Hey,
That's
do
a
you have
great
time
idea.
for lunch or dinner
Yeah.
while I'm in the area? I'd like to, at least meet you face-to-face, that kind of stuff. And I get a lot of
Absolutely.
takers on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. So here is, so like I'll just go to one of these. I have all different templates. And again, don't forget, my lead generation person goes into LinkedIn with my credentials. They sign in as me, and they are sending these messages for me when I'm not doing it, right? So if I look at, I noticed your impressive profile and recommendations within the group and that we share a similar call center focus. I use LinkedIn to follow and align myself with successful people like yourself and hoping to add to my network. Been in the call center space for many years. If there's anything I'd be assistance with, let me know. No strings attached. I did not want to be impolite by sending you a cold invitation. However, I'd welcome the opportunity to do so. Send me a connection. I got a bunch of different variations on these things, right? Of whatever way I want to do it. I got all sorts of stuff in here. We've been working on this strategy for, I've been doing this since 2006 or 2007. So it's kind of second nature at this point, But so just getting back to what we're doing here, so really that's kind of the concept, right? Is being a value, being on. And the other thing for anybody on here who's like a card player, I always say, one of the things that our peers they've shied away from this sometimes is because it doesn't give you that immediate results. And I don't know, was that Jamie talking before, or was that Lisa who was talking about I'm not a salesperson? I don't know who said that.
I think it must have been Lisa.
That was Lisa, right?
Lisa,
So
yep.
what I was going to say is what's nice is you don't have to club people over the head with a sales pitch. You can
Right.
slowly be a resource, I mean, one of the things I do, right, so this guy's in Philly, but one of the things I do, again, looking for ways, I've done it for a couple of times, like Mark Gross is our counterpart in Chicago, and Marnie Garrettson is our counterpart in San Francisco, Bay Area, and Barbara Komish is our counterpart in Salt Lake City. Every time a new person from Interactive comes on board, I go into my LinkedIn network, I connect with them, and then I send a note with them to all the people in my network in San Francisco, because LinkedIn allows you to do that. And then I can say, hey, everybody, here's a person. They just started with Interactive Intelligence. Look at their background. You can see they've been here in this business for a long time. I'm sure you guys should network with each other, and hopefully you can add value to each other. And then I just leave it alone, right? But it allows me to kind of send this guy a message who I'm nurturing and just say, hey, here's another resource for you,
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yep.
So I do that every time someone new is with Interactive. I find out what territory they're in. I go into LinkedIn. I sort my contacts by the area. I click on all of them. I send them a message, say, hey, just want to introduce you to a new resource in your area. Please get to know them. Hopefully you guys can do something. And it's just, again, it's just finding little ways to stay in front of people. Here's another thing I just wanted to share with you. Once you create an online presence for yourself, you'll start to see that people will start to send you stuff. So here, Laura Sikorsky, who's a part of the Society of Telecommunications Consultants, she found someone in a group who was looking for a contact center. This Angela Ortez. She sent it to me, and I was able to kind of do a little digging. She was the call center manager for Planned Parenthood, and I turned this over to Gary Johnson, who's out of the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. So again, once people see you active, they'll start to recognize your kind of motivation. I just want to give you a couple of testimonials for people who are doing it. Brett Holman's had some great success with this. He's been able. He says it straight out. I connect with decision makers now. He's got a very, for people. I know you guys. I go you guys specifically. And actually, when Dan was doing the presentation out in DC, I was asking a lot of questions of how you developing business, because I think Jerry is out of Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Is that it? Jerry's in Atlanta, but he's covering New York. So how can you possibly really do a lot of proactive business development in those territories if you're not in territories? Well, a guy like Brent, who's got a very big territory, he now can connect with so many more people by filtering and using the different tools, and then proactively connecting with these people. He can get on their radar a lot better than he could ever do through the waiting for a trade show to come through and getting on there, or to have one lead generation person just making cold calls all day. He can do that a lot easier. Mike Shields, another one, what he's done, he does both proactive. We all go to meetings and then see people, and then we can proactively connect back to them. What he's been able to do, like he says, is he can connect with them proactively and get on their radar with, long before he actually even has a conversation with them. Karen Nutt, another one, who's using this. She's no longer with us, but I keep it in here as one. And then lastly, one of the guys who who kind of just took this and just went, total, guerrilla tactics. He hired a third-party consultant to rebuild his profile, to add him into all the relevant groups, and then send out all those cold invitations. He created a little template and had this person send it out. He had, according to him, he had about a 30% success rate. He had, out of the 1,000 that he initially sent out, 292 came back. He was following up with the 292, and I know from talking to him, he had 15 leads out of those first 300. The first 292, he had 15 qualified leads that he was working on within the first month of doing this. Okay? I can tell you right now, he's had, lead generation working for him for months or years, and they've never been able to get 15 leads probably in a year. He was able to get 15 qualified leads doing this strategy in the first month. So, the people are out there. This is a means to connect with them, and if you do it right and you do it non-threatening, you can actually, you can definitely, be very, very proactive. What can you do with Twitter? So I think it was Jamie or Lisa asking what you could do with Twitter. I mean, what I use Twitter for, it's real simple. I follow my customers, I follow prospects, I follow competitors, industry media outlets, the analysts and all the talking heads out in our space, and also consultants. I follow them, I promote them, I retweet them, I thank them, all doing that in public, so that I can build a rapport with them, build a relationship with them. And that's the type of stuff that has allowed me to meet up with people who I would generally not ever come in contact with, but it allows me to create a relationship with authors, subject matter experts, analysts, and the authors are great. I mean, they love when you promote their material. And you can certainly do a lot of connecting and networking on Twitter as well. If you connect on these links, you'll see, I think if you click on these links, hopefully it works this time when I do it. Let's see if it actually goes there. Yeah, so it'll bring you to Twitter here. If you go into this link, it'll take you to all of the different, at least in my space, Decisions has its own group of providers and profiles, but here's a list of all the people that are in that group, and you can see kind of tweets from that, what my competitors are doing, what Cisco's doing, all the different information that are out there. So back to the presentation. All right, so here's some. I got to change this. It should be elevate, not evaluate. I didn't even notice that. Anyway, what can you do on LinkedIn? Like we talked about, you can be a rock star, right? You can build a brand. You have a name, a picture. You want to make sure all of these things are up to snuff. Pictures are really important. If you're in a search, if you come up in a search, your profile is going to get clicked on like 20% more of the time if you've got your picture up there. If you've got websites, like putting the interactive websites, changing your own public URL. If you're not sure what that is, if you notice, everyone has their own kind of LinkedIn, so it's linkedin.com/Dan Mahon, and then it might have like a lot of characters like, 8976Z-YX. You can actually trim that down so that it's a simple, linkedin.com/Dan Mahon. So you can change that. I highly recommend that you do that. Professional summaries, adding your specialties, and I put recommendations here, right? So recommendations are really important, and not the endorsements that you see out there today. Recommendations are really key, right? So my point with recommendations are real simple. If you're trying to connect with C-level people, director-level people, you should have recommendations from C-level people and recommendation people, right? So if the whole idea is to proactively connect to someone, send them a message and offer some value, and then have them come back to your profile to check you out, the recommendations should be of their peers. So it's real important to put recommendations out there. And like I said, the people that you've done business with should be okay with doing recommendations for you. I'll just throw this out there. Any ideas on how to get recommendations if people, from C-level people? I mean, would anybody on the phone be afraid to ask a C-level person to give them a recommendation?
No. No.
No? Okay.
Nope.
That's good. That's good. Sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes people come back and say, yeah, I wouldn't want to bother them. And I always say, you know what, not only ask them, write it for them. In the same note that you're going to ask them for it, say, I took the liberty to write it up for you. If you agree with it, just cut and paste it into it for me. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, they'll cut and paste it for you.
Yeah.
You know, I know you're busy, but creating an online brand is really important to me, and the work we've done there is really great. I'd love to have you do it. Here, I took the liberty of writing a paragraph for you. If you like it, just cut and paste it. Actually, I've done that, and almost every time, even though I've written it for them, they've taken the time to actually write it themselves. Right? Develop your network proactively. So, Lisa, you were talking about it. What do I do with LinkedIn? How do I do it? Well, the reality is you're creating a network, and you should be proactively developing that network. Be unique. I think unique really stands out. If you're going to be like everyone else, you're going to get the response that everyone else gets, which is really limited. Be proactive. So I think this is an environment that you can really be proactive, and you can add value to people long before you can actually get something from them, which I think is really important. Join groups, industry groups, vertical groups, professional groups, local groups, and what I call parallel group. So someone who does work, a workforce management group to me would be a parallel group. That would be a primary group for you guys. A parallel group for you would be call center. Make sense? Does that concept make sense to you guys or no?
It does to me.
Yep.
Right? So I would want to be in all the call center groups that are available, or telecom groups. A parallel group would be like teleservices or business process automation or workforce management, right? So those are parallel groups. Cultivate or court your network, whatever way you want to use that term. I always look at, your network and what I do on LinkedIn. It's like the World Series of poker, right? If you guys play cards, you kind of sit there. You can sit there for days looking at the same 2 cards, trashing them, throwing them back. But if you get the right set of cards and you're in the right position, then you play it. So, you cultivate it and you wait for the right time to step in. This it allows you to stay in touch, so you keep in touch with your people, stay on the radar. And then, what I say is if you're going to build a network, and you have a network, I'm sure many people on the phone have a network, and there's probably, they have, 500 plus people. Have you ever thought about how you're monetizing that network, right? So how are you making money from your network? It's great to have an online resume. That's wonderful. To be quite honest with you, you don't even have to have a resume, and headhunters will call you and send you emails. You just have to have your name up there. But how are you utilizing your network to make money off of it? Indirect money and direct money, and really how you using your network to create demand in your marketplace. And then again, you work the process and await the results. So I would say sometimes people have immediate results like Mike Strahan, and sometimes people have much longer-term approaches, and they have a longer-term play. It's real important to do that. Whatever you do, it's social media, so get social. It's about being social. It's about giving without expecting anything in return. What's really, though, is really a big priority is make sure it's sustainable and it's consistent. So if you're creating a brand for yourself, make sure it's something that you can actually be consistent with, and that you.
We just lost you for a second, Mike.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, it seemed like you popped off just for a second.
Oh, sorry about that. So I'm not sure where I disconnected, but make sure it's sustainable and consistent. Not only online, but if you take it offline and meet people, you want to make sure that the brand that you've represented online is the same brand that you're going to represent offline. Don't spam people. Don't provide stuff that they can get anywhere else. Find different information to provide content. Be an unconditional facilitator, a matchmaker, a resource for your network. And I always say do not promote yourself, but promote clients, promote analysts, authors, subject matter expert, and partners, because the reality is when you're promoting all those other people, you're promoting yourself indirectly, which is really the key. Any questions on any of that stuff? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it really does.
Right, and so, there's a good resource online if you ever want to take a look at it, yoursalesplaybook.com. I got this from him. Be a matchmaker. Create and provide free resources for your network. Some of you guys, in the decisions world, perhaps there's tools out there that maybe people aren't aware of that you could provide, or maybe there's something a freebie out there that you can find. Maybe it's a mobile app for their phone that does workforce management or something like that. Provide that to your network. Connect with and get to know all the recruiters in your space. They're connected with a lot of people, and it's good to be connected with them. Be brand agnostic, right? So, one of the things you'll notice with me is I don't really push a lot of information that's specific to interactive intelligence only. I pick information that's customer experience centric, that's customer service centric, that's call center centric. I don't really, promote interactive only because that's Joe Staples' job. That's not my job. My job is to be a resource in the marketplace. So if I'm out there and all I'm doing is pitching interactive intelligence and marketing stuff, then I'm going to turn a lot of people off because that's what everybody else does. So I try to be brand agnostic. And then use your brand agnostic to introduce your network, right? So find the authors, find the subject matter experts, find people looking for jobs, and promote them in your network. Pay attention to people updating their status. Encourage them, validate them, offer help in a non-salesy way. So Lisa, like you said, you're not a salesperson, but the reality is that you could be very salesy without being salesy. And a lot of these strategies, I'll just say this. I said this at the last iSales meeting. If you haven't read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People in a long time, it's probably a good idea to read that book to help kind of complement your strategy. Because all of these concepts are the same concepts that have been out there forever. It's really sales 101, right? And then provide rock star opportunities, not just for yourself, but provide them for your peers, and provide them for your customers, and provide them for other people, and make yourself available. That make it known that you're out there to help, that you're out there to provide information, that you're out there to be a connector, and I think that'll go a long way. Just some further suggestions before you do anything, before you start retweeting, especially if you're retweeting interactive stuff. You should read the social media guidelines, get them from Denise Meyer. Don't jump in right away. Be a spectator. Build your strategy first. Figure out what works for you, and then do it. The other concept, like you see in the picture, social media is about pay it forward. The love you take is equal to the love you make. It's not a self-promoting try to do a land grab on everything you can. It's about being a resource. If you're going to create discussions, participate respectfully, not aggressively, and ditch the pitch. No hard selling. It's really not welcome on sales. I've seen people do it. They don't get any response. Don't be controversial. Don't be an expert. Let the experts be experts, and you just be a facilitator. Connector of people, content, and discussions, and then, like I said, always give credit where credit's due. And like I said, when you're promoting your peers and your clients and your network, certainly that's promoting yourself indirectly, which I think goes a lot better, goes a much longer way. So that's it. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Really good.
Yeah, really good.
Hey, Mike, can you